Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm a writer.
Also joining us with a friend is Marvin. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, I'm Paleo, and I've brought my little Tanix friend over there.
Yeah,
He'll just stick around for a bit.
Okay, cool. And also we have Ella. What's up?
Hello, I'm Rasarr, and I'm sitting next to the nowhere over here.
Oh, great, perfect. the closet?
That's my bedroom.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Look, it's a shroud of darkness, and I just see something hanging there, so it looks like a closet to me. Okay.
And that's where I sleep.
Okay, in the closet. Look, if it's good enough for Harry Potter.
Was it good enough for Harry Potter? I don't think so. I think he had distinct issues with sleeping in a closet.
We're not talking about any of this today. I am Chaos, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Sunreach, the new Skyward novella that came out last Tuesday, and we are recording this the weekend after, and hopefully this will be out soon. This will be a shorter mini episode. Maybe if it goes over 2 hours, then clearly that will have failed, but hopefully not. We'll do bonus minisodes for Sunreach and Redawn. Evershore comes out like December 28th or something. Mm-hmm. So we'll see after Evershore. We might do a full episode for Evershore and try and like talk about the novellas as a whole. But I think for Sunreach and Redawn, we'll just do some bonus episodes. And of course, Cytonic comes out in November, so we had Sunreach end of September, Redawn at the end of October, and Cytonic at the end of November, and Evershore end of December. So what did you guys think of Sunreach?
It's good.
It's really good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
I missed the banter of Skyward Flight characters, so and I got a lot of that, and I was like, oh, this is what I missed from Starsight. Oh, fantastic! So it's actually really nice. Oh, by the way, Skyward is Starsight. By the way, just in case that wasn't clear already.
I could have expected this.
Yes, Cytoverse spoilers. And man, it's so good seeing the characters that I grew to really like in Skyward. And like this feels, it has the feel of what I expected a Skyward sequel to have, in a way, in some sense. Like with the banter and, you know, the good character relationships and stuff. Obviously, like the stuff, the premise of Sunreach is, well, A, training with slugs. B, then we're going to go to Sunreach and rescue Kuna. But mostly the first one, because Sunreach is just like way later. And like training Jorgen with Cytonics and stuff.
Yep.
So,
yeah, it's like after Starsight and hearing a lot of people's complaints that I did not share. It's like it makes sense that a lot of people like Sunreach more than Starsight.
I don't know if I like it more, but it definitely has a lot of the things that I missed from Starsight in a way. That I'm like, oh, it's so good. That's so good.
I did like it more than Starsight because, you know, it was, those were characters that I was already invested in and I wanted to see more of them. And the fact that they were absent from Starsight and that the book just wanted me to get all reattached again to those characters and then took them away as well meant that, yeah, so I very much preferred the little adventure with, well, not so little adventure with people that I already was familiar with and missed in the last book.
Yeah, and I think that's why we joked in the Starsight episodes. It's like, oh, well, when Spencer goes into the nowhere, then we'll have Delver Flight School, and then she'll have a new crew of people. And then they'll also be gone in the next book. It's like,
For me, I can't really say either whether it's like I like it more than Starsight because they have different strengths for me. I really liked learning about all the aliens in Starsight, and it was a really nice story for Spencer.
Agreed.
But yeah, seeing all these characters again is just it's fantastic because we already were invested in them and see where they are now, and that's just nice to see. Well, I wouldn't have minded if instead of the Skyward Flight, it would have been the flight from Starsight. So like just some continuation for those characters, like if it was Figment and the others in this book. Technically, I'd also like it probably, depending on what happened to them. But yeah.
It's like I think I would still rate Starsight higher than Sunreach, just because Starsight's the main story, and this is a side story. It's like
this one is
giving
side story
more context to the world, which I really enjoy and love, but like this isn't the main point of the story. This is Rogue One to the Skywalker saga, like
just with less grimdark. I honestly I don't know which one I would actually rate higher, because on the other hand I feel like I liked Sunreach more, but on one hand it's also like this is the book I read the latest, so this like post book high is still there,
and the endings are always fun. The ending's great. I really enjoyed it, but I guess, in my opinion, Starsight kind of suffered because we didn't see some of the Skyward Flight characters, even in the Battle for Detritus, right? And so I loved that this opened immediately, Battle for Detritus, FM. I'm like, that's great opening, because that is what I missed. And so I can only assume that this has been developed sort of... Maybe this was always kind of the plan for Brandon to do something with these, and like it got fleshed out into these 3 novellas. Who knows what Brandon's original plan was, of course. But so he left a space for things like this. It does kind of feel like mandatory reading to me, still for the series, because like if you think about reading the end of Starsight, Jorgen's like, I found a bunch of slugs, and like this is like, here's a bunch of slugs. So it's like it is clearly the continuation of exactly what that is, right?
It depends on where book 4 will be, because I assume that Cytonic will mainly be like still Spencer and the Nowhere, and then what will happen in book 4. Because if then we hadn't learned anything, or if we don't learn anything in the main series about the slugs, then it's all of a sudden they already have hyperdrives,
right?
The Tritus, and where did it come from? So I do think in that regard it would be mandatory reading. Yeah, definitely.
And it's like at one point Brandon did mention like he was planning for Cytonic to be a dual viewpoint, which is no longer the case,
right?
Yeah,
from what Brandon has been saying. So I could see is like the stuff that is happening in these novellas, like the training with the slugs, like would have been covered in that secondary viewpoint.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I would assume that would have been Jorgen, but
I think he said as much somewhere. So
yeah, I remember hearing something about it, but I can't really like find it at the moment.
Yeah, and maybe he just decided like maybe the book would be too cramped, and this way we can give this storyline much more space. And you know that's not a bad thing.
Well, I believe
never enough space for Delver Flight School.
Well, I believe it was Jancy spoke a little bit about this, where he went to her and said like, hey, like I want you to do a series of like 3 novellas of like focusing on the members of Skyward Flight. And it's like, but Jorgen was one of the off limits characters. And then she came back and was like, hey, I want to do like FM, Alanik, and Jorgen, and pitched him a story. And he went along with it. So
I mean, we'll definitely have to see, because I mean, obviously Jorgen in this is obviously very important of a character, even still. Actually, I kind of wanted to talk about FM some, because I don't know what you guys felt about FM prior to Sunreach, but I was like, FM's fine. Like FM, I wouldn't rate is like top of my Skyward Flight list, but something like this, I'm like, I really care about FM now.
I was a little surprised when I learned that it would be FM for this one. I would have expected someone like Kimmerlin
Yeah.
because she
right,
was
yeah.
really present in Skyward.
Yeah.
But so I was pleasantly surprised to learn more about FM in this, and I really liked her in this.
But I like that it's FM is a character we didn't see a lot get in the head of a lot in Skyward.
Yeah.
So that when we did get into her head, like it was very fresh. It's we knew a bit about her like dissenter interactions, but whereas like I think with Kimmelin, like we might have known too much about her for a novella centered around her to be interesting in the same way.
Yeah.
I will say I was interested in FM beforehand, like partially because of the whole like disputer stuff.
Yeah.
And I do kind of wish that the book went a bit deeper into this. Like I get this book is about slug training and not internal affairs of the Tritus.
Yes.
But I was, when I heard that FM would be one of the characters, I was very happy because we didn't really get to learn much about the Tritus's civilian life.
Yeah.
Beyond like what Spencer was doing. And I did kind of wish that the book went a bit deeper into that, since FM was like our biggest window into, the Tritus isn't just a monolithic culture. There are different places there.
Yeah, and I can understand that. I think a few people also had mentioned similar that like the disputer stuff wasn't as relevant. I did find her character conflict to be very compelling. That's like, I thought we should be this, but clearly like we need to do, some fighting, right? And things like that. And so that was an interesting character conflict in her head, but it was mostly internal rather than like an external thing.
Yeah, I did like it, but I wish, like I said, I wish we got a bit more of the Tritus world building than Slug world building.
Yeah,
I know the server will not be happy with hearing we need less slugs.
No. I think that's fair.
Like even some interaction, like she talked about how her dispute, like she thought about her disputer friends, but we didn't see any of them, and maybe even just a small interaction with one of them would have been enough to give us a little bit more of an insight into the society.
That's mostly because like she is up on platform Prime.
Yeah, right, exactly.
She's not down.
Yeah.
She's not interacting with non-military people generally.
It is a bit of a logistics problem to get all the Detritus world building where the characters aren't technically on Detritus.
It's true. And we want to make it a snappy story that's also fun. Like it's a very tricky juggling act.
But I think Cheshire sort of served this purpose in a way, at least. Like she was she stood for everything that FM is against. So
that is certainly true. Yeah. Wow. She is. That interrogation did not go well.
Diplomat of the year.
Diplomat of the year. Oh my goodness.
It's like I was surprised about how abrupt Alanik's departure was. It's just like, okay, she's just gone for the rest of the book. Okay. Yeah, I don't blame her for leaving.
Yeah.
I was like,
Man, Joshua was kind of almost like a caricature of a person because of just she was like the biggest asshole.
Yeah, I mean, that's a completely fair statement. Yeah,
I get where she's coming from, but she might be the dumbest character in those books so far.
Yeah, like it makes sense, but I see what you mean with the caricature. A lot of this comes down to, I think, it's a novella. We're not going to get as much depth into these things. And so it's like, more. It would be great to have more Detritus stuff. It would be great to have more development for this character who just like looks blatantly like a horrible person. It's like, I mean, that's fair.
And not only is it a novella, it's a novella that's part of a YA series. It's YA series, like, focus on like the viewpoint characters, like, the young people, like adults are most of the time are the problem. Like in YA series.
It's true.
It's honestly a wonder we have so many competent adults in this series.
That's actually true.
Yep.
It's actually true.
Another factor would be that like Chansey or Brandon has set Chansey up to write 3 novellas that probably he has set her a goal that these characters need to be in at the end of these 3 novellas, and
Presumably,
she has to get these beats right to set up book 4 correctly. So that's also probably a limiting factor for her to like. Okay, she would have liked to go down to detritus, but it just wasn't in the cards for these novellas. Who knows?
Yeah. Let's talk about speaking of YA characters and what it focuses on, because in addition to Slugs, we also get FM and Rig relationship. And look, when I read Skyward, I didn't really love Spencer Jorgen as like a relationship, because I was more focused on the other things in the book. Totally fine if that was what you're into. And so like in Starsight, I'm like, I don't know. But this romance, I really enjoyed this romance. Like, I thought it was really well done, and I'm just like, please talk to each other. And they finally did. I'm like, thank God you're talking. But it was like very believable that they weren't talking at first about it. And like they are teenagers, right? Like late teens. It's like, okay, that checks out.
And it's all Spencer's fault.
Yep.
Because like Spencer was supposed to like broach the subject of like, hey, Rig likes you, and then she never did.
I actually went back to Skyward because there was something there. Like I remember that Rig told her to approach FM, and then I went looking, and she very briefly talks, or Spencer very briefly says like, "Oh, are you into nerdy guys or whatever?" And that's all we get in Skyward. So,
I mean, in Spencer's defense, it is a bit difficult to broach the subject and not make things very awkward.
That is true.
But Spencer being good with people is not necessarily her best strong suit, for sure.
Spencer has the social skills of a battle axe, so
like it makes sense why Spencer didn't do the thing.
Yeah.
But like she still didn't do the thing.
And like honestly, I had kind of forgotten it when I was reading Sunreach. I was like, oh,
so
FM likes. It's true. And just like seeing FM in FM's head is like, oh, you like Rig, and I like just totally forgot that Rig really crushed on FM.
And the whole is like her thinking like Riggs hates her and that he has a thing for Spencer. I was like, no, no,
that was hilarious.
And it's like when he like. She finally asks him about it, and like, I don't hate you, and it takes like a couple beats for her to realize, like, I'm glad that was kind of dealt with soon, because I'm like, don't stretch this out, and they're like, okay, we didn't really stretch it out. It was not unnecessarily stretched out at all.
I am glad that they resolved it like before the end of the story, because it was kind of by the numbers, but it was the fun sort of by the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when FM asked Rick whether, or like that she thought he was into Spencer, and she said, no, she's terrifying.
that was pretty great.
Characterizes Spencer pretty well.
Yeah. Oh man, that was really good. And of any series, I think, like I don't read a lot of YA, but obviously I imagine a lot of this it can be frustrating when characters just don't talk about their damn feelings. At least in Skyward, it's basically always a life and death situation, and then Spencer had to leave in Starsight, so there wasn't like a lot of time to really do that. And so it's like, well, that's honestly very understandable that you really don't have a lot of time to talk about your feelings, and also like the Defiant culture's not really talky-feely about your feelings as well either.
And it's like, Rig probably made the assumption that like Spencer did broach the subject. He didn't hear anything more, so he assumed
that's actually
FM didn't like him. So it's like, he's not going to broach the subject.
That's probably exactly what happened, actually. Yeah.
And so like he's avoiding her because like, I don't want to be awkward with her.
Yeah,
like,
right, exactly. Yeah.
And on the romance in general, I feel like it really shows you that Chansey is likes to write romance and does it sort of primarily in her works. And I think that is a part where the or basically she wrote the book and Bren gave her input, really paid off, because Brandon's romances sometimes can be
divisive. Let's say divisive in the fandom. That's like some people really like them, other people are like, wow, this is suck. This is terrible.
Yep.
Yeah, it definitely feels like John C is just better at writing teen romance than Brandon, because like even the like FM and Rig aside, even Spencer and Jorgen's relationship looked better in this book, to me at least. And half of that relationship wasn't even on page.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say teen romance is the top of Brandon's list of skills. Like he's a very skilled writer. But yeah, his romances are not necessarily the best.
Cytonics have different strengths and weaknesses, so do writers.
That's true. You know, I don't know if some of you know this or not, but when Brandon was starting out, he won like romance awards for like Elantris and Mistborn. Like this is true.
Really?
Yes, no. It was like a thing. I remember this.
Maybe that just shows in what better state the fantasy genre
like
was.
The fantasy. It was some fantasy romance, maybe like magazine or something that gave it. Like I think in Elantris it makes more sense. Like I think the romance there is reasonable there. But yeah, granted that hasn't happened for a while, but I remember that happened for a few years. It would be helpful if I remembered what the award was called, but it was some group gave Brandon awards for romance. So
And it's like the people who keep recommending Mistborn as a romance novel.
yeah, I mean, like definitely Elantris and Warbreaker. You could make that argument for sure. And like if you're into romance, then there you go. But I don't know about Mistborn. I wouldn't say that, but you know, hey, I mean, we're pretty positive about Sunreach. Does that make you pretty positive about future collaborations that Brandon's doing?
Yeah,
most definitely. Yep.
It's like I did enjoy Lux, and I enjoyed the original. So it's like I'm good. I'm hopeful if we're getting more Brandon stories, even if they're not written by Brandon himself.
Did I don't know how much Jancy's gone in detail about like how the revision process went. Like, did Brandon do drafts? Like, clearly they were on the progress bar, so he was doing some things.
Yeah,
I think it's the same as the other some of the others where like she did a draft, he did a draft.
Okay.
And, like they would alternate.
We'll have to get Jancy on the podcast hopefully, and she can blab about it. That'd be great.
And then I can't remember if it was reading an interview or seeing a video with the two of them. But it's like the original plan for Skyward was to be co-written between the two of them.
Really?
But then the Apocalypse Guard didn't work out, and he had to like move Skyward forward.
Okay, interesting.
So
yeah, and he needed a book for Del Corte. Yeah. Right, that makes sense.
Yeah,
interesting.
But it's like originally like he would do Apocalypse Guard, and then like some number of years in the future, like he would co-write with Jancy, which like it'd be interesting to see that version of Cytoverse, because it would be very different.
It would.
The Jorgen Spencer relationship would work out better for sure.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer and Jorgen are fine.
I have my thoughts about this, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, I already said that I'm like, I wasn't really into it in Skyward. So it just kind of like started in the beginning of Stars. So I'm like, okay, sure, I guess.
As far as the collaboration so far are concerned, like compared to Lux and the original, I think this one had the least friction for me, almost. Like the tone, there wasn't much of a tonal shift at all. It was really like, you wouldn't really notice it. I didn't notice at all that it was co-written, basically. Like, it could have been by Brandon. While with Lux, there were some things that just went quite dark compared to what Brandon usually writes, and just different from, like, you noticed a difference there. And the original also was just sometimes like there was more swearing, for instance, which is something you don't usually see in Brandon books. So
not that he couldn't, but you definitely think with a co-writer situation, it's like, I feel like this is what happened here.
And so this one felt the smoothest to me, almost. Yeah.
I definitely agree. Like it felt exactly like a Skyward book. Like it felt exactly like that. And I think the only thing that you'd really truly notice that it's better, it's like, wow, this romance is really good. It's like, oh wow, this is surprisingly good.
I will disagree.
Yeah,
that like it definitely felt like a Skyward book. It didn't necessarily feel like a Brandon Skyward book.
Okay,
like, it feels like like I never got the sense that like, oh, this was written by Brandon alone. Like I could tell it's like, okay, like this was written by somebody else, but like the integration with like his work was done the best, I think.
Yeah.
It's like it's more cohesive. But
true,
like, just like the prose I could tell was not Brandon.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I don't really notice these things, and I probably should if I want to be a writer myself.
I don't, but there were a couple of lines where I'm like, this weird sentence is weird to me. I don't know why. I've never run into this kind of sentence in a Brandon book.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I just get so easily swept away with Brandon stories. I'm like, this is great. I like it. I like it. And then I just, I forgive a lot of things because I'm just enjoying the story so much. And that was how Sunreach was. I'm like, I can blow through this book super fast. And I enjoyed it a bunch. But I wonder if my enjoyment of this is really because I felt like, oh man, I really miss these characters. You know, because I'm sure that is a aspect of like, oh, that's what I was missing. It's this. It's all this stuff. I really miss that. So I wonder how I'll feel with, some other collabs. Like, I can't say I'm super hyped for Songs of the Dead with Peter Arulian, but I mean, maybe that'll be great. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this had the same characters, and so I'm like, great, fantastic. I needed this.
What really helps with Sunreach is that, for one, we do know the characters, so there's already some investment there.
Yeah.
But also that, I think you really notice that Chansey deeply cares about these characters and the Cytoverse as well.
True.
Yeah, that helps a lot too. Like if not to say that Bowles or Mary Robinette Cowell didn't care about the characters, but because we already know them, it shows that she also really likes them and wants to tell their story and wants to do them justice. While with the others we mostly had new characters, so they had new stuff to work up from and only had to get the lore right, so to speak, at least in the case of Lux.
Right. Sure. Yeah. This will actually be very interesting to see how Alcatraz 6 goes, because Chansey, worked on that for because that's a Bastille viewpoint. Have Marvin, Ala, have you read Alcatraz?
Yep.
No, I bounced off it pretty hard, unfortunately.
I mean, it's not for everyone. I do find them very fun. I should probably do a reread. Right? Yeah. But
I read them at the start of this year, so they're relatively fresh on my mind too. So
those are great books to just crank through in an evening. They're very short and very fun. But it's just going to be interesting to see how that works. And judging by this, I'm like, all right, I'm totally sold. I imagine it's going to be great because I thought this was, it definitely accomplished the things it needed to accomplish, in this one. So I'm excited for that.
I keep forgetting that Alcatraz 6 is done.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great to have a release date for things that, that'd be great.
So weird because we heard at the end of last year that they're only waiting on the illustrations now. So of course it will take some time after that.
Art
but
definitely takes a while. Yeah. As we know, support us on Patreon for our art pulls. Sometimes it takes a while. I think our piece on the 9 which from several months ago is still working, but it's going to be really good.
It's going to be so good.
It's going to be really good.
The sketches are so good.
Yeah. So good art takes a long time. That said, when there's lots of money for art, I like, why is it taking quite this long? So it's like, are we even gonna get it in 2022? Like, I'm just very confused as to what's happening with Alcatraz 6. But I am very excited because this turned out so well. You know?
Yep.
Not that I wasn't excited, but it's just like, I mean, Alcatraz, it's been a long time since I've read Alcatraz, right? So I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. But I think they're a very good tonal, like there was a lot of synergy between them. Like Jancy, you know, obviously very strong with the characterization and romance, I felt, and I imagine a lot of the slug stuff is Brandon world building, which, you know, is always good. So really a good match there. So I'm pretty excited. Granted, haven't read any of Jancy's other stuff, so I don't actually know what her strengths are. But I at least think the characterization and romance, I could say, is good strength because it turned out well here. Do you want to talk about slugs?
Yeah,
I guess we should.
We got to talk about the slugs.
Probably, yeah.
Our Discord channel on Sunreach Spoilers has really enjoyed talking about slugs, and maybe you all also are very interested in slugs. Boom Slug's great. Love Boom Slug. The time where he exploded over Jorgen was amazing. It's just, that was quality. Also, just everything with Jorgen dealing with the slugs. 10 out of 10. I loved it. I loved it.
I mean, to be fair, it's probably what my reaction to having to interact with giant slugs would be.
It's true. But just the sass and the banter, just 10 out of 10. Loved it. Yeah. Just every moment. That was just amazing. And the slugs saved the day, basically.
They did. Yep. Slugs are love. Slugs are life.
I admit I have a bit of a slug overload at this point.
yeah. I mean,
very understandable.
Yeah. Discord.gg/17shard for all your slug news and discussion.
Yeah, it's just, I did enjoy them in the book, but I am growing a bit tired of them at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, they're definitely like reaching past meme status to annoying status.
So stick status.
Yes.
Basically.
Yep. My comparison was to Minions, but I guess Stick works too.
No, Minions, that's a good comparison. It's totally fine if you find Stick hilarious and the Stick interlude hilarious. It's just, as we, moderate a really large server, the Stick jokes get old pretty fast. So it's totally cool if you find that
seen
hilarious.
Them
many times. Hundreds of times. It's just like, just like all the other Stick jokes. Great. But yeah, I don't know how much there is to talk about the slugs in particular, other than I really liked them.
I guess I can share my little theory about the slugs.
Okay, sure.
Because when I was reading the book, it didn't just to me occur that the slugs look very like artificially made. Like not in the sense of like out of universe that they were made up from the whole cloth, but it's shockingly convenient that we have one species of slug that comes in 3 very distinct colors that just so happens to perform 3 different functions that are very useful to people who, need some crutch for their cytonic powers.
And that exists almost basically all over the universe, or galaxy at least, apparently. So that's another.
Yeah, I have this pet theory of mine that the slugs were artificially made either by humans or by some other species, and to function as the hyperdrive, and they just sort of spread as whoever created them spread around the galaxy.
I definitely see what you mean. However, creatures develop biological niches. And like if you can get cytonic powers, it's like maybe you just evolve to be just really good at that thing, but maybe then they should have more divergent characteristics than just like they're colored differently.
Yeah, it's like
it's very convenient.
Yeah, no doubt, it is very convenient. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, it's like, or it's like I could see it's like they develop cytonic abilities, and then like somebody like did some genetic engineering to we need to very easily tell the hyperdrive from the death machine. We're going to make them different colors.
That's.
I mean,
yeah,
it
true.
doesn't even necessarily require like genetic engineering. It's just like domestication and like
Right, and just intentionally breeding it. Yeah.
I mean, technically, that is genetic engineering.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It is just like not
True.
We've been
genetic things. Yeah.
Active manipulation.
We've been genetically engineering things for thousands of years, very intentionally, because this fruit is not natural the way we did it. We did a lot of things to be convenient for us.
Yeah, and just to summarize, like we see 3 varieties of slugs: the blue and yellow hyperdrives.
Yep.
The red and black mind blades.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember what the
Purple and
Orange
something.
and
It's purple.
Purple and orange.
purple and orange. FTL
Slugs.
communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I won't be angry if it turns out they are just naturally, it just happened to evolve like this, but I do for now headcanon that someone engineered them to work this way.
Yeah.
So I think I definitely I saw the theory that like because it is odd that they seem to exist all over the galaxy or whatever. So that some early species had them on their planet or whatever, and then sort of seeded them cytonically, like they had cytonics locally, and then just sort of jumped to planets and seeded them there, and that made them available to others. That I quite like, but whether like they were created to be that way, it could go either way on that one. Yeah.
I mean, they can teleport, so I mean,
yeah,
that helps.
Some of them can,
that helps them move across the galaxy. Yeah, I mean,
that is true.
Yeah.
Though we do establish that they don't like naturally, willingly teleport across entire worlds. Like there is like this
Yeah, I
whole
guess
section
that's
devoted
true.
just to deciding what their range is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's true. So maybe like humans in an earlier human war, developed these.
Maybe.
Or
the,
aliens.
or the superiority.
Yeah.
But it would be quite ironic if like the superiority depended on the achievements of the humans they fought against.
That would be funny.
I mean,
that would be
they
funny.
do already. Like Starsight is based on a human design.
Oh,
It's
right. Yeah.
yeah. They do mention
Yeah,
this, I believe.
Well,
The disc design.
look,
I
I
think it's
trust you.
actually
You did a
also-
ton of location articles on the Coppermine, so I absolutely believe you. I just don't remember.
I think the Starsight is actually a version of a platform from Defending Elysium. I think they use the same
There's
mechanism for
definitely-
letting the air in.
Similarities in how they described, and it was like they both use element-specific gravity, I think, to
Yeah.
keep the habitable air.
I mean,
So
makes sense.
Superiority does use human tech pretty extensively.
Yeah, I mean, steal what works well. Like this.
Or it could be some like ancient precursor race. Like that's a sci-fi
Yeah.
trope.
Yeah,
Yep.
the Delvers.
God.
The slugs are the ancient
The
precursor
Delvers.
race.
Yeah, the slugs.
Yeah,
Slugs are big
slugs are just-
No, the
Yeah.
slugs are the Delvers.
Yep.
Yeah, just that's the fourth color is the black ones, and the
that's
black and
why
white
the-
ones, and they transformed into Delvers, and that's why we don't see them anymore.
And that's why
Solid.
the teleporting slugs are actually terrified of going to nowhere, because it's their parents watching them.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I can't imagine why our Discord chat really likes memeing about slugs like this. I can't imagine the appeal. Oh man. But I love the just the slugs comments. It's like fine's fun.
I also want to talk about the mammoth star pod.
Oh, that was so
we got
cool.
a giant
Yeah.
space monster
Yeah.
in this book.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's like that worm in the asteroid from Star Wars.
Emperor,
Like, yes.
Empire Strikes Back. Yep. You gotta have giant space monsters. Like, why not? If
This
you're
is
made,
Star Wars.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was definitely a very fun thing. Honestly, I will say the space combat in this was really tense. Like, I didn't really feel nearly as tense in Starsight as I did here. Like when the orbital, the big ship of the superiority comes and they needed to take out the cannon. I was like, that was a really intense space battle, as was the one at the end at Sunreach itself. Like I really dug the space combat and just feeling the stress. It's almost like Spence's just too good, you know, that I don't feel actually that she's in danger anymore because she's just so good at flying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think something that is also, I would have to go back and reread Skyward and Starsight, but I feel like this book focused less on the like mechanical aspects of the fight and just much more the like emotional impact of it.
Yeah.
Because like with Brandon, you like he likes using his mechanics with like the light lances, and there probably were a bunch of mentions of light lances in Skyward and Starsight when they like hook around stuff. Like that. We had like one or two in this book, and it was just natural part of what she just or what FM does, and so that I feel like that definitely helped make this the fight scenes feel more immediate on an emotional level, and like you actually felt with the characters. More.
And like I can definitely see what you're saying about like Spencer being too good is like not being afraid for her, which I guess explains like because like I know you've and others have complained in Starsight that all the stakes disappeared. Which like I never felt because because Starsight does still have stakes. They're just different kinds of stakes.
Yeah.
And so it's like Spencer, like I'm not afraid that like she's going to die like in a firefight because like she's Spencer, she's good at flying.
Yeah, right.
Like the bad thing is always like something else. That's like a Delver flying into detritus. That would be bad.
Yeah, it'd sure be bad if a Delver actually caused some actual damage. That'd be nice. But don't need to get into that. But
there's also a bit of a meta reason for the tension, I feel, because like we know that Spencer is the main character of all 4 books. So the idea of her like dying Starsight is kind of not really feasible.
Yeah, right.
Meanwhile, I actually felt like at the end of Sunreach when FM and Jorgen were on the station, I actually felt like there was a non-zero chance that the rest of the flight would actually die, especially because Skyward already established that, you know, Skyward had a body count of main characters. Yeah. So I did like have this, before the Slug Ex Machina, I did have this feeling of like, they might actually just leave FM and Jorgen alive of the whole crew.
Yeah. I don't think it's actually a Deus Ex Machina, but the Slugs are, at least they'd been working with the Slugs for a long time, that it didn't feel like it came out of nowhere.
It is a bit unfair of me to call it a Slugs Ex Machina.
But I mean, the Slugs did save the day, no doubt. But you're totally right that like Skyward had this existential dread every time they went up in for a space battle, and granted, right at the start, I'm like, oh, right. I mean, they'll probably all be fine. But when the superiority ship and they needed to get the planetary cannon down, I was like, oh, this could be like really bad. But fortunately, like Rig being awesome, getting the shield together, and FM, you know, they're using the hyperdrives. Not great, but you know, they're still useful. Honestly, the space battles with teleportation is very fun. And like there was actually that existential dread, and that's what I think was lacking in Starsight in a way.
Yeah, because Skyward set up the anyone can die pretty well, and the other books are still kind of profiting from that.
And no one else has died since.
Hisho died.
Well, okay, yeah, that's true.
Off page,
off screen, yeah.
Actually, regarding that exactly that point, that is something that actually at the end when they think Jorgen is dead, that didn't feel impactful at all to me, because like we know that he'll return in Evershore, so he was only dead for a very short amount of time, but still it could have felt more impactful if he didn't know that he was returning anyway. So that was a little sad, I'd say, or like unfortunate that that moment would probably have been much more shocking if we didn't have prior knowledge.
True.
To be honest, I never really felt like he died, because we've spent an entire novella just establishing that teleportation is kind of the thing he does now. Like
that was another aspect. Like, of course he didn't die. Like, why he can teleport?
He's too main character to die.
Yeah, exactly. But like the knowing he will return, that just took all the impact out of it for me.
I guess that's true. Like, if you really want to go meta, would really a main character like Jorgen die in a novella? No. Like, if you really want to meta it, maybe not.
Especially like not to retrieve Kuna. Like,
but also I could totally believe FM could have died in this.
Yeah,
right. Like that totally could have happened, or in one of the next ones, right? Like that would be believable. But Jorgen is too plot important, I feel like, at this stage.
And that's actually something I really liked about the characterization of FM in this book. Like, she has this constant fear that she won't be returning, and that the others will have to go through the process they always have to go through when one of their flight has died. So that was really well written. Yeah.
It does kind of highlight something I felt like criticizing in the book.
Yeah.
Because to me, it kind of did not feel like FM was the main character of her own novella.
Yeah.
Which is like my biggest problem with this story. It very much felt like Jansi really wanted to write about Jorgen, but was sitting in FM's head. Which obviously I can't really guess what her mind was. But we get like... but part of the problem is that FM isn't a cytonic. So whenever we have... one of the multiple scenes of people being cytonic, it's mostly like we watched as Jorgen sat in silence, which is, as far as showcasing magic goes, not exactly riveting. And also the fact that, the slugs saved the day and FM trained the slugs, but honestly, the most like epic and heroic moments in the story mostly belong to Jorgen. So it just did not quite feel to me like FM was the main character of story that was supposed to be FM's.
That's fair. Like, we definitely got good character conflict, but you're totally right. Yeah, Jancy was saying in Discord that Sunreach was difficult just to get in to FM's head, and that's probably connected to exactly that thing, right? Like, I would expect Redon with Alanik and Evershore Jorgen to like fit better in that respect, and probably are stronger because of it, right? So I think that's a fair critique, honestly.
Yeah. But to somewhat counter it, it's almost like it shows that these aren't like, unlike Skyward, which are Spencer's books, these are Skyward Flight novellas. And because we didn't only see Jorgen excel, I'd say, but Rick was also like really prominent, had his moments to shine. So in that regard, I feel like it worked well to show off how the different flight members, or like, I guess Rick isn't really a flight member anymore, but still in the group.
In spirit.
Yeah, in spirit he is. And in the spiritual, or in the nowhere, he always...
Oh, yes, in the nowhere, yes. Yes.
But yeah, I definitely agree that FM took a step back at many times, and like, especially like also when Rick had his moments to shine, like, she's just was there to cheer him on and like, look at him and at him.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I feel like it's a totally fair point that I think is unfixable for this novella in a way. Like, I just don't even think that is a possible thing to really do without like reworking the entire plot. And you probably just can't do that.
I feel like, like I mentioned before, I think part of the problem is that FM is not a cytonic, because the plot is going so deep into the weeds of like cytonic abilities and cytonic slugs and teleportation and hyperdrive being the core of the problem. So having a character who doesn't have access to the magic system kind of leaves her playing, second fiddle to characters who do.
True.
But I actually kind of like that we did get to see a non-cytonic POV in a story that is so focused on cytonics. Because it's like probably if you ask FM, it's like she would think she's playing second fiddle to like Jorgen is like oh, like they're the cytonics, they're the heroes.
Yeah, like I definitely I don't disagree with what you're saying. I still like what we got. I can understand anyone having that issue, but I also thought FM was done well enough that I didn't really mind in a sense.
Mind you,
Right?
I did enjoy the story still, like not to say, because I feel like I've had a lot of criticism today and it's not the last I have.
Yes.
So I'm sorry if I'm coming off of super negative. I really did enjoy the novella. You know, I am very much, I love the magic systems and reading about how they work and all that. So a point of view character who doesn't have access to it left me like, please tell me more, show me more. I want to know more.
If I will just become the mother of slugs and just like have
Mother of
one of
slugs.
each. Actually, it fits. Like 3 slugs is what she requires, and then I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, the good news is that if you liked this, I imagine you'll get plenty of Cytonic stuff in the next ones, and so it'll probably have all the same things you liked, but just more of the Cytonic stuff. And right, so totally reasonable thing, but it's like, oh man, I want more Cytonic stuff. It's like, well, I think you'll get plenty.
Yep.
So
The other 2 point of views for the novellas are Cytonics. So
Yeah.
and then we have a book called
Exciting.
Cytonic.
Wow.
So that helps too.
I do want to say that I, for one, loved the Slug Ex Machina.
It was pretty good though. Yeah.
It was so good.
I kind of
Yeah.
loved it.
Like, they want to help.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
I did like it.
Yeah.
And it's like obviously the superiority has been using them by like terrifying
Yeah.
them
Right.
and forcing them to jump. And so it's like, oh, like we don't have to do it the superiority's way.
Yeah.
Like we found our own way to
Yeah.
work with the Tainting.
If you terrified them, they would not have come at the end. Like they wouldn't have wanted to help.
I did like the ending. I know I called it Slug Ex Machina, but I did like it.
I feel like that was more a
that's
sassy
great.
comment rather than a serious comment.
Yeah.
That's
Just one more thing quickly about the previous things about FM not really being the center of attention. But I did really like what I did really like about this novella is the setup for her, because like at multiple points she's the one who's more diplomatic and doesn't want to go in like Jeshua, and I feel like that's just set up for her to become a diplomat in the future.
sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would very much like that. Yeah.
Yeah, she definitely did a lot better than Joshua. No doubt. It's not hard.
I'm pretty sure Find the Slug would do better than Joshua at diplomacy.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer would do better.
Yeah.
Spencer did do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Oh man, can you imagine being Kuna and having to deal with Joshua now?
Oh boy. Yep. That sounds great. What could go wrong? Also, I'm glad Kuna's still alive, and so because that was the thing. Like, did Kuna get off Starsight? But I mean, we knew they would, right? Because that also wouldn't happen off screen. So good that we're dealing with that.
Yeah.
If I may share a small peeve regarding Kuna, or that's not really Jancy's fault or even Brandon's, but the description on Amazon calls Kuna she, which just irks me.
Yeah, I think the capitalization's wrong as well. Yeah. I don't know who writes it. Yeah, that's not great.
I'm guessing because Cobb kind of calls them she. Connected to that, it seems like nobody on the Tritus seems to know who non-binary people are, that they exist, because it also irked me that when Kuna was explaining that they use the they-them pronouns, they kind of made it sound like this is some alien thing, which is just poor wording, which I feel like the book was kind of trying to salvage this by having Ned be the one who explains to the others what Kuna is trying to say. But also, I feel like the book could really have just given us a non-binary human, because the way Kuna phrased it really made it sound like it's a trait of their species and not something that can also happen in species with binary sex like humans are. Yeah,
that I think this was discussed on the Queerness in the Cosmere episode. It's like, wow, it'd be really nice to have, non-binary human and not just be an alien trait. And they're kind of doing the same thing. So
the trend continues.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance to say. It's like, no, diodes are only they don't do that at all, while also saying that humans can totally be like that too. So
yeah,
yeah, that's fair. But
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that with another writer who is, I believe, younger also, we would get a bit more representation of different sorts in the story. But it is what it is.
It's tricky to introduce new characters, I think. And I think that's why there's so few new characters in this.
Just start shipping Arturo and Ned like I do.
Yeah.
Like we have a bunch of characters whose sexuality isn't really discussed.
True.
And hey, unless characters are specifically noted as straight, they could still be bisexual.
Yep.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to quickly touch on, because we have already talked about the ending and that we generally liked it. Something that I found, I didn't really find it bad or anything, but it was a little weird to me that the novella was entitled Sunreach when we spent one chapter at Sunreach. Like, that is...
I know Jess was telling me the same thing, and I'm like, yeah, that's fair. I feel like maybe they were like, ooh, so we have Redon. That's a great name. That's a good name. And Evershore, great, cool. Which, if you do read the kind of, I mean, I don't think it's actually a spoilery description, but that is another location. And they're like, what location are we going to do for this? And it's like, well, technically, we do go to a new location. So, yeah, that's fair.
It does kind of feel like they just scoured the book for some proper noun they could use to type for a title.
You couldn't just call it Slugs.
I kind of wonder if they could have called it Detritus, but I wonder what the publisher would think about this one.
Yeah. You just call it Tanix.
I was just about to suggest it could be Tanix.
I mean, And
that's true.
So
fair
spending
critique.
some more time on Sunreach maybe would have been nice too. Like it was space battle, and then the slugs rescue them, more or less. Like,
we were not on Sunreach very much.
Like, exactly. Yeah.
It was the set piece for the final battle, but you don't typically call books that. But I mean, I don't know. I think that's mostly fine, but it's definitely
it's a minor thing, because I guess the like blurb on Amazon also set the wrong expectations, because it was like they now have to go rescue Kuna, which to me set the expectation that it would mainly be about that, and it mainly was about training slugs now. So, which I don't mind at all. It just set the wrong expectation for me. So
yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah. Well, at least we have Redon next, which should be more of, more of Redon, seeing that's probably where Alanik went when she blasted off.
Yeah, I think that is exactly where she went. Like, where else should we go? Obviously.
Especially since the blurb for Redon already talks about Alanik being very unhappy with what she finds there. Which, I have to say, was anyone else kind of, I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it, but creeped out by Alanik?
How so?
Because like when I was reading the scene between her and FM, she was like talking like, don't trust them, don't work with them, they're going to trick you, and so on and so forth. And FM, who like really wanted peace, and I will admit that I am also want them to find a way to resolve this peacefully, because it was kind of a theme of Spencer learning that people aren't the monsters she's seeing them as. So I would like for it to be...
Winzik. Winzik is the monster we thought she was.
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like Alanik was just kept repeating, no, you have to go to war with them. And I was kind of reminded how at the start of Starsight, there's this weird one-off line where Kimalin describes Alanik as beautiful as the devil.
Yes.
Like, she just kind of mentions this one-off, and then Alanik, spends the rest of Starsight being a glorified prop, so we never really get a follow-up on this one.
Yes.
And now, the first thing when she wakes up is to tell FM that, only war can solve this, and then blasts off like Team Rocket. So I'm kind of
I love the way it's so funny. Oh man, that's good.
Yeah, but I am kind of wondering if she's not going to be just the villain protagonist for the next book. Like the leaders of Redown would want to, make peace while Alanik is there trying to push for war.
I don't think Alanik is a villain. I think everything she says makes sense for her experiences up until that point. that like she's not trying to promote war because she wants war. It's like she is from a planet that the superiority has not treated well.
Yeah.
Because like of their historical connections to humans.
Right.
So it's just like, yeah, it's like, don't trust the superiority. They're bad.
Yeah, like I get where she's coming from. I feel like there's going to be a peace effort that would be really good for people, but because of her prior experiences, she is going to end up torpedoing it, whether deliberately or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's not like, maybe not the villain protagonist, but like a sort of antagonistic force to the peace efforts. Because I know it's maybe kind of naive to me, but I really do want the attempt to sue for peace with superiority to actually work out, to like avoid having to go to an outright war with them. Which I know this is not how real governments work. Like empires don't cave into please and thank yous, but yeah, I am hoping for peaceful resolution. And Alanik's first words after waking up, well, almost first words, is just there will be no peaceful resolution. And we do know from description of Redown that the Urdail want to like make peace with superiority or something along those lines. So I wonder how sympathetic Alanik will be to me once I actually get to read more of her.
I think if Alanik sort of has the view of, I don't know, 2 months ago, or how many weeks it has been since the beginning of Starsight.
Yeah.
But so stuff, the situation can drastically change over that course. And so I could see Read On being more about her coming to terms with the peaceful solution and sort of going in with the idea that we can't possibly make peace, and at the end definitely being okay, I see we probably should resolve this peacefully because otherwise so it sort of reminds me of how Spencer in Starsight was like trying to thought the best approach would be to approach Braid because, you know, fellow humans, surely we will be on the same side. And she ends up making the situation kind of worse by revealing herself to Braid and being forced to flee. And Braid now has, you know, because Braid is actually on the side of Winzik and wants to use it for her own purposes. So I'm kind of wondering if Alanik isn't going to have a similar arc where she tries to do what she believes is right, but turns out this is actually worse for everyone involved.
Yeah, okay. I guess narratively, I'm like, well, the peace can't work because presumably we're going to have the fourth book be called Defiant, and who are they going to defy? Like, the superiority, right? Like, isn't that what we're doing? Yeah.
My pet theory, like if I'm going to like theory crafting for the plot, is that we are going to see some sort of civil war or a split between the leadership of superiority, with one faction led by Kuna and one faction led by Winzik. So it could be just an interplay of which part of superiority we are supporting, which part we are defying. Okay, sure. Yeah, that seems sensible. I'm just like, but there's gonna be space battles in the fourth book. But I imagine Winzik will end up with control over superiority's military because he, you know, because we need the space battles. I mean, and I imagine he already is, right? Like that's what they were doing here. Superiority doesn't quite have a military, but he is in charge of their like containment forces or whatever they're calling them. Yeah.
One more quick point about Alanik maybe is that like why she also felt a little odd to me in this book was that like she reacted very, very like abruptly to the humans, while she was like her people priorly had like good relations with the humans. So I felt it a little weird how she reacted, like immediately like don't go to superiority, but also don't let me stop you. I'll go now. It's like a little odd, I found. But I mean, it's required for her to then be in her own book. Like we're obviously
it definitely felt like setup.
Yeah, we're totally gonna get Alanik answers. I'm so excited because I was a bit upset in Starsight how little Alanik there was, considering Spencer was impersonating her the entire book. So I am so glad to see Read On as a title. It's like, oh yes, that's clearly gonna be Alanik and that stuff. And like, gimme. That sounds great.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we will have another Minisode after Redawn comes out at the end of October. What's the date for that one? I think it's the 26th. I think it's the 26th of October. Yeah.
Exciting.
It is honestly, this is a great time if you're into Skyward to just have lots of fun content. Like, I think Brandon was talking about how this was supposed to be, oh yeah, it's kind of going to be like an episodic thing, but in more book form, where it's like, all right, 1 month this, 1 month this, then the main book, Cytonic, and then another thing. I'm like, I kind of dig it. That sounds fun.
Yeah,
I'm really glad they convinced the publisher on that one, because I think they wanted to publish them all at once. I think as a collection and the novellas, and I think this works really well. It helps to digest them more and just has a lot of content.
I mean, that's totally true. However, I feel like some of the things that's like, wow, I'd really like more Cytonic, and like, let's get more Alanik stuff. Like obviously, if we have all three of them, then we can probably talk about those as a more consistent whole, which is probably why we'll do a full Evershore episode after that comes out.
Probably.
But yeah, I mean, it is nice to have some episodic content, and it's like, oh yeah, I mean, it was a good episode. I liked it. It's good. Give me more, please. Oh, good. More's coming. Fantastic. Yeah. I like not needing to wait 6 months for it. So,
yeah,
because that's where
honestly, I can't wait to see the cover for Redawn.
I gotta say, the cover for Sunreach was really good. That was definitely my favorite US cover of that. That was nice. Yeah, so I'm excited to see that. Although I did hear there's one thing that apparently in the audiobook that there are just like errors, that it's like not consistent with the final thing. Like there's just like typos, but presumably they just started recording before the proofread happened. I guess, which is kind of a bummer.
Tight line.
I mean, I imagine it would be here, but that's definitely a bummer. So I am sorry, audio listeners. I didn't listen to it, so I don't know how it goes. but I heard that, and I rate that kind of a bummer. That's what I rate that.
I think it's mostly like if you're reading along as you're listening, it's noticeable. Like if you're just listening, there it's slight enough that it's like it's not actually an issue. It's just like if you're like comparing the two things directly to each other, it's like, okay, there's some slight inconsistencies.
Yeah, I guess I just thought that more than a few people were like, there were just straight up errors, and like they did notice it purely in the audio. So
okay,
but I don't know the details
from Discord.
Yeah. Anywho, well, this was fun. Well, we'll clearly have to talk about Redawn later. But I think we got to go to who's that Cytoverse character. We're only going to do one. But, Minisode. We'll just do one here.
This character is from Rasarr.
Menace. Tien.
Tom.
Braze.
Void in drag on a horse.
It's time for Who's That Cosmere Character? Caw. All right, this one is sent in by co-president of the Town Fan Club, who is a fantastic new Coppermind editor who has honestly done a freaking absurd amount of Coppermind editing in like the maybe 5 weeks that they've been here. So good on them.
Are they the same person?
Yes,
because
yes, they changed. Their Discord name's co-president of Town Fan Club, and they've just changed their nickname to be #1 Town Fan.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure they weren't just. Like,
they are 100% the same person. So
okay.
Clue 1: this character is referred to as male.
Winzik?
It's not Winzik.
Hey, show.
It's not Hesho.
Ned.
It's not Ned.
I wanted to guess the character I sent in once, but I can't remember their names. So
Clue 2. This character visits Sunreach.
Arturo?
It's not Arturo.
Oh, it's one of the news.
This is new. Okay.
Skyward members. What are their names?
Oh, I know their names.
I feel like there was some T-Sick or what, something like that.
Is that your guess?
Yeah, it is.
I know who you're talking about. No, that person is T-Stall, and it is also not T-Stall.
T-Star, yeah.
Honestly, not sure what T-Stall is referring to. Maybe there's a joke somewhere that good old T-Stall and Catnip and Sadie.
Catnip, right?
No, Catnip's different from Sadie, right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sadie has
Sentry.
call sign with S.
It's Sentry.
Oh,
Sentry,
yeah. Right.
Gil.
It's not Gil, but clue 3, this character is sluggish.
Chubbs?
Huh?
There was a slug called Chubbs,
No, it's
right?
not Chubbs. No. Yes, I do think there's a slug named Chubbs, though.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Happy?
It's not Happy. Who's that Cytoverse slug?
Everything.
Have we guessed Jorgen?
We haven't. No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, sluggish.
I don't think Jorgen is
That's clever. Like, he's sluggish because he's cytonic.
My guess is going to be Jorgen because he's covered in slugs.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. No, it is not Jorgen.
Okay.
Okay, clue 4, this character sings soprano.
Fine?
It's not Fine.
Twist.
It is Twist! Yay! Who remembers the slugs' names? Because I sure didn't remember Twist, I must say.
I forgot.
Arjun, I think, mentioned that like he didn't keep track of the slugs when he was reading it.
Yes.
And then I said, okay. And he said it just before I started reading. And then I said, okay, yeah, I'm going to highlight all the slug names on my Kindle. So I can refer to them. So.
Excellent. Yes. No, it is in fact Twist. And clue 5 was this character was named by Rig. Which honestly, I don't think I would have gotten it at all. like I know Happy is like, oh yeah, Chubbs, fine, Boom Slug, okay, yeah. The other yellow slugs, I'm like, I don't know.
Gil and Twist.
Also, I must say, I was really distressed when Happy teleported and we didn't know where Happy went. I'm like, did we just space Happy? No! Yeah. But Happy was fine, which is good, because I would have rioted.
No,
so that
Happy
was good.
Isn't fine. They're distinct slugs.
Happy's on first, Fine's on second.
Chubb's on third. All right, well, this was very fun. And we'll see you next time for Read On. And we'll also have an episode coming this weekend. That is our regularly scheduled episode. So you can find us on 17shard.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. I believe there is much more slug discourse on Discord. So come there for memes and joking about slugs.
For slugs and ships.
Yes, less so on the forums, but come for all your slug-based fun that you want. That didn't. Let's just move on. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, YouTube. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can like, comment something. What do you think of I almost said sunscreen there. Yeah, put your comments about
what you think about sunscreen below.
Yeah. Put your favorite sunscreen brand in the comments. It boosts engagement, which means this will be recommended more, and it probably needs that because it's a non-Cosmere thing. So you should definitely boost that engagement. And you can leave us a review on iTunes, and if you like our stuff, you can support us on Patreon. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
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 Caw.